If you play acoustic guitar, if you play folk music or traditional music, DADGAD is a really popular option. For a lot of players, it's the only tuning that makes sense. I've been making acoustic guitars for a living for over 35 years. I trained under English luthier Stefan Sobell in the 1980s. And for most of that time, most of my clients have played DADGAD guitar. By the end of this video, you might understand why, and you'll have an idea of what to look for in a guitar that suits DADGAD. DADGAD is an alternate tuning. Standard guitar tuning, you've got on the bass, you've got E, then A, then D, G, B, and E. In DADGAD, you drop your two E strings down to D, and you drop your B string down to A. What you end up with is D, A, D, G, A, D. So if you are familiar with standard tuning, it's not going to be completely alien to you. The three strings that you do change, they create a suspended chord. It's a suspended D chord. There's no third in it. It's not major, it's not minor, it's unresolved. And that suspended quality, that's the thing with DADGAD. When you're looking up the history of DADGAD, the first name you usually come across is Davey Graham. He was a really unusual and quite remarkable British folk guitar player in the 1960s. Apparently, he developed DADGAD after travelling to Morocco and trying to play with oud players. He wanted to play alongside these musicians, couldn't do it, retuned his guitar, and could. John Renbourn, who was a good friend of Davey Graham, has described it. Graham had just got back from Tangier. He was recorded at the Troubadour in Earl's Court. That recording, She Moved Through the Fair, which is in DADGAD, is where most people dated from. Other people then picked up DADGAD from Davey Graham, Bert Jansch, John Renbourn, Jimmy Page, Dick Gaughan, Nick Drake, John Martin. It spread quickly through people who were paying attention. Now it's worth noting that DADGAD didn't arrive directly from Davey Graham to Irish music. It came via two well-regarded musicians. Now apologies if I get the pronunciation wrong. Mícheál O'Donnell and Dáithí Sproule, who heard Davey Graham and took it into Irish music. But it's not just British and Irish. Pierre Bensusan, who's French, of Algerian descent, took DADGAD, took it somewhere else entirely, into the world of solo guitar. A sort of highly developed way of playing guitar, nothing like traditional Scottish and Irish music or English music at all. The music of Scotland and Ireland is largely modal. It often doesn't resolve to a tidy major or minor. It comes from modes which predate classical major and minor ideas by centuries. So DADGAD sits in that world quite naturally. Then there's the drone. Traditional music from the pipes or the fiddles often has a drone running underneath. It's a sustained note that doesn't change and the tune dances around it. With DADGAD, you kind of get that for free. Those low open D and A strings just want to ring. You don't have to work hard to get that drone. Ian Stevenson, he plays my Modal S. He put it well. In DADGAD, the open strings are related by octaves. 3 Ds, 2 As. That causes sympathetic resonance. One string vibrates, the others respond, like an acoustic reverb built into the instrument. That's the opposite of, say, gypsy jazz playing, where you're constantly damping strings for percussive effect. DADGAD is the opposite end of the dial. When I first covered this topic on my blog, I emailed a load of musicians who I knew to find out what their introduction to DADGAD was, what their influences were. So the routes in are all different, but the destination always seems to be the same. Once players get into it, they often stick with it for a long time, if not for life. John Smith's one of the best folk musicians, singers and players you're ever going to hear. Here's what he said. DADGAD is a different world. It makes the guitar behave differently. It moves the air in a way that is more mysterious, more romantic, especially when you take the whole thing down a semitone. Musically, it offered access to a wide landscape that standard tuning doesn't contain. As soon as I discovered DADGAD, my love affair with the guitar deepened and became more fascinating, more rewarding. Adam Brown plays with him. DADGAD is the only tuning he's ever played guitar in. I find the openness of the tuning really helps shape moods and emotions, and is such a useful tool to create euphoric, deep soundscapes almost effortlessly. It has the ability to hold strong rhythmic strumming, and in the next moment pluck melodies. The usefulness of the low D drone for such things is second to none, and is something I've always loved. Seth Tinsley, he's been around the folk scene in England and Scotland for years. He's a great player. He got into DADGAD because of Pierre Bensusan. Melodies fit easily under young fingers. Chords become naturally suspended and more interesting with the addition of drone and strings and extended bass register. Gives a fuller, more sonorous and rich quality to the low end. I feel the guitar just sings more, and I love that quality. Jim McGinney, he's a founding member of Midnight Oil, and he loves traditional Irish music. He's got several of my instruments, and he put it like this. DADGAD is a mystical drone, and I've always thought the more open strings and close harmonies you have, the better. Denny Bartley, he bought one of my first guitars. He's a great singer and guitar player of traditional Irish music. I mostly got into DADGAD through playing Irish music. It suited the modality of the tunes. I was a huge admirer of Dick Gaughan, who did his songs in DADGAD. I would have been more involved in rock type of music before that, and of course Jimmy Page had dabbled in the tuning also. What's the right guitar for DADGAD? Now obviously I've got a stake in this conversation, so I'll try and be fair. The right guitar for DADGAD depends on you. It might be that it's one of my guitars that suits you best. It might not be. But there's a few things you can kind of ask yourself to find out. A traditional dreadnought in DADGAD can be a little bit muddy. Those open strings, the drone, even a good Martin, they don't sound tight in the bottom end. And that bottom end can get a bit messy pretty quickly. They're voiced for a different sort of music. I do make dreadnought size instruments which are great for DADGAD, but they're very much not a bluegrass guitar. OM size guitars, that's quite a good guitar for it. That's quite a good size for a DADGAD guitar. I think one quality which comes into play more than most is actually scale length. If you go for a shorter scale length like a 24.75, which you'll find on Gibson guitars, you will lose string tension. You will lose a bit of clarity and you will lose precision when it comes to intonation. On a loud guitar, those errors are going to become more audible. So I would generally encourage you towards a slightly longer scale when you're looking at a DADGAD guitar. The Sobell, which I think they're a perfect DADGAD guitar, 650mm, slightly longer than a Martin scale. If you got small hands, you want to play fiddle tunes, yeah, you can consider the shorter scales, but you have to be quite precise in your playing and not overstretch the strings when you fret them. Probably the area where I have the most to say is soundboard design. The physical shape you put it in, not the outline, but the arching or the topography would be the right word for it. That's probably the biggest lever a maker has to pull when creating the voice of the instrument. A lot of modern guitars are made with what's called a spherical former. And I can tell you, I don't think this is the right way to make a guitar for DADGAD. It's a shape which has become popular mainly because it really suits the manufacturing process. It's about process first, and ease of building and not sound. If you want clarity and power and you're playing DADGAD, you need to be looking at makers who've given this a little bit more thought. I use two main soundboard designs, the SS and the HO, and they're both actually made with DADGAD in mind. Both are quite a bit more complex in topography than a spherical former. Tonewood, this is a bottomless pit, something I've discussed in other videos. The short answer is, if you can't make a first-class guitar from European spruce and Indian rosewood, you're doing something wrong. The long answer is, yeah, there are loads of other woods. That's for another video. So that's a bit of history, a bit of theory, but really what you need to do is hear some guitars which have been built with DADGAD in mind, and that's what's coming up now. All sorts of different models, different woods. You'll hear them played with a plectrum, you'll hear them played fingerstyle. Put your headphones on or plug your good speakers in. Enjoy the music. And if you'd like me to make you a guitar just for playing in DADGAD, you can click the link below.
you.